The room echoed with laughter that did not belong to me, sharp and cruel, like glass breaking inside my chest. I froze by the doorway, listening to Emily said. He cried like a child, and I couldn't stop laughing. My throat tightened, and my body trembled. Daniel leaned closer to her, chuckling softly, his voice low but cutting. You made him believe you cared all this time. Emily tossed her head back, her laughter spilling freely. My hands shook as I whispered, how could she? Memories of promises, secrets, and shared dreams crashed around me like waves. Sarah stood nearby, silent, her eyes darting between them, unease written across her face. My heart beat violently, each thump a reminder of the betrayal burning into me. I felt invisible, like a ghost haunting the edges of a life I thought was mine. Emily said, he thought I would never betray him, and the words shattered every memory we had. My breath hitched, my chest a battlefield between rage and heartbreak. I wanted to scream, but my voice collapsed into silence. Sarah's glance caught mine from across the room, her eyes pleading for me to stay calm. Daniel's smirk widened as if enjoying my suffering, and Emily's laughter carried like poison in the air. The sound became unbearable, every note slicing deeper into me. My memories collided violently with the present as I stood in silence. I remembered Emily and I sharing secrets at midnight under the stars, swearing nothing would come between us. Daniel's voice snapped me back, mocking in tone as he said, he is too naive to see what's real. Emily's laughter echoed, each note cutting like a blade. Sarah looked away, her jaw tight, as if she wished the walls could swallow her whole. I wanted to scream her name, to remind her of the girl who once held my hand when life broke me. Instead, my voice faltered inside my throat, suffocated by disbelief. The warmth of friendship I once clung to was now reduced to ashes in the sound of their cruel mirth. The rain outside became a mirror of my tears, streaking against the window with relentless rhythm. Emily said, he trusted me with everything, her words twisted with cruel delight. Daniel laughed quietly, as though savoring each syllable. Sarah's silence screamed louder than any sound, her glance fixed on the floor. My chest ached, the memories of shared summers and promises clawing against the truth I now faced. Each passing second felt like a cruel reminder that everything I believed in was a lie. I pressed my hand against the cold wooden frame of the doorway, desperate to steady myself. Emily's laughter mixed with Daniel's voice, both striking like hammers. He said he thought loyalty was enough. Sarah shifted uneasily, her lips parting as though words lingered unsaid. My heart sank as I recalled her once whispering, I will never leave you, and now watching her betray that vow with cruel silence. My breath quivered, my body screaming for release, yet my voice was locked in chains. The room blurred around me, sounds muffled by the storm inside my head. Emily's laughter stretched endlessly, a cruel echo haunting every nerve. Sarah turned slightly toward me, her eyes pleading though her lips stayed sealed. Daniel leaned back, relaxed as if my world's destruction was his entertainment. I wanted to shatter the silence, to demand why my tears were now their amusement, but I stood paralyzed. Emily's voice rang out again, venom wrapped in sweetness. He thought I was his forever. Those words ripped the air, leaving my heart in ruins. The sound of Emily's laughter haunted me long after I left the room, echoing like a cruel ghost. My chest still ached, but my mind drifted back to when we were 12, chasing fireflies in the summer heat. Emily said, we will never leave each other, and I believed her with every breath. We ran barefoot through the grass, our hands sticky with melted popsicles, our hearts free of shadows. Daniel wasn't there then, only a distant neighbor, not yet tangled in our story. Sarah was with us, timid but smiling, her voice small as she whispered, I hope we stay like this forever. I had nodded fiercely, promising them both that we would never grow apart. The warmth of those nights still lived inside me, but now it burned like a cruel lie. I wanted to believe in that girl, in her wide eyes that shone with trust, but the memory was poisoned by the woman's laughter I heard tonight. Sarah's quiet presence in my memory became my anchor, reminding me that not everything we built had been false. But the ache refused to let go, the betrayal too fresh, the wound too deep. The memory shifted to nights under the stars. Emily lying beside me on a blanket, her eyes wide with dreams. She said, "Michael, promise you'll never let go." I had laughed, nervous but certain, replying, "I'll hold on forever." Her hair spread across the fabric like a halo, the night sky reflecting in her gaze. Sarah sat close, hugging her knees, humming softly, as if guarding our secret world. The summer air smelled of grass and warmth, and for a moment the universe seemed ours. I remembered tracing constellations with Emily, her finger brushing mine as we named stars after our dreams. That night felt eternal, carved into the marrow of my bones. I wanted to believe she had meant it, that the girl beside me that night had been real. But her cruel laughter tonight made the stars in my memory burn out, leaving only ashes in the sky of my heart. I saw us older, in high school corridors, carrying secrets in whispered tones. Emily walked beside me, brushing my arm, saying, "You know I trust you more than anyone." I believed her without hesitation, holding her words like treasure. Daniel passed by in those days, his eyes sharp, his smirk already forming, though he remained distant. Sarah always lingered nearby, protective in her silence, as though she sensed the storm approaching. We scribbled messages on notebooks, Emily doodling hearts and promises between classes. Each smile felt like a vow, each glance like a bond unbreakable. But now those doodles bled through my memory like ink spilled in water, dissolving into nothingness. Every word she spoke in those halls echoed in my head, now transformed into mockery. The betrayal poisoned the laughter we once shared, and I wondered if she had ever truly meant any of it. My anchor was the night Emily called me in tears, her voice broken through the phone. She said, "Michael, please don't leave me, I need you." I had run through the rain to meet her, soaked to the bone, but determined. She collapsed into my arms shaking, and I whispered, "I'm here, always." Sarah watched from the porch, arms wrapped around herself, her eyes full of relief as I held Emily together. That moment defined my faith in us, my proof that our bond was unshakable. But standing in that memory now, I couldn't reconcile the girl I held with the one who laughed tonight. The rain had once washed her tears away, but now her laughter washed away my trust. My heart twisted, desperate to believe in the past, yet unable to ignore the truth in front of me. We had built a sanctuary out of late-night talks, whispered laughter, and promises whispered beneath flickering street lamps. Emily said, "No matter what, we're unbreakable." I carried those words like armor, believing they would protect me forever. Sarah leaned close one night, her voice softer than the hum of the streetlight, whispering, "Michael, you're her whole world." I had smiled then, convinced that nothing could touch us. But tonight, as her cruel laughter filled my ears, those promises shattered. The sanctuary we built was nothing but rubble. The streetlights in my memory flickered like broken stars, and her laughter twisted into their hum. My heart staggered under the weight of a truth I never wanted to face, that love and trust can rot, even when they once felt eternal. The cracks began quietly, whispers between shadows where trust should have lived. I noticed Emily's smile slipping when she thought I wasn't looking, her eyes drifting toward Daniel more often. One afternoon, Sarah nudged me and whispered, "She seems different lately," but I brushed it away, clinging to hope. Daniel's words had grown sharper in recent weeks, his laughter cutting deeper as he stood too close to Emily. My calls went unanswered, my messages lost in silence. Emily once said, "You know I'd never lie to you," but now her eyes avoided mine when the subject of loyalty surfaced. Sarah's silence felt like warning, her gaze carrying a truth she was too afraid to speak. I told myself I was imagining it, that the bond we built was stronger than secrets. Yet the unease grew, wrapping around me like smoke, suffocating and inescapable. The friendship I worshipped began to unravel one thread at a time, and I feared I was the only one who noticed. The silence between Emily and me became louder than words. She once called me every night, but now days passed with nothing but emptiness. When I asked if something was wrong, she smiled too quickly and said, "Everything's fine." I wanted to believe her, but Sarah's glance told me she didn't. Daniel's smirk grew sharper, his presence like a shadow stretching further each day. I began to feel like an outsider in my own story, standing at the edge while my place was stolen piece by piece. Sarah said softly, "Michael, something's changing," but her words were drowned out by my denial. I forced myself to cling to memories, holding them like fragile glass, though each day they cut deeper. The truth hid in plain sight, but my heart refused to see it. The small betrayals became impossible to ignore. Emily once promised she would always answer, but now her phone went dark whenever I needed her. Daniel, meanwhile, was always there, filling the silence she left behind. Sarah urged me gently, "You need to ask her the truth," but my fear silenced me. At gatherings, Emily's laughter no longer reached me, directed instead at him, her eyes shining in ways I remembered as mine. I stood in crowded rooms feeling invisible, a stranger among the people I loved most. My heart broke in quiet fragments, unseen by anyone but Sarah, whose eyes carried pity I couldn't bear. Each unspoken word stacked like bricks between us, building walls I never thought would exist. The betrayal was not yet confessed, but it screamed through every stolen glance and unfinished sentence. I began to notice how Emily's words no longer matched her actions. She said, "You're still my closest friend," yet her laughter was louder with Daniel, her gaze softer with him. Sarah stayed near me, quiet, her silence heavy with truths she refused to voice. My heart carried questions that clawed at my ribs. Was I blind, or was love already stolen from me? Emily's texts arrived late, vague, like shadows instead of words. Daniel's presence haunted every space, his grin daring me to see what was in front of me. I told myself it was jealousy, a poison I had to fight, but the ache only deepened. Sarah whispered once, "Michael, don't let this destroy you," but her warning fell too late. The bond was rotting, and I could no longer pretend it wasn't. The unraveling reached a breaking point. Emily said with forced brightness, "You know I'll always care," but the distance in her voice betrayed her. Daniel lingered too close, his smirk carved into every silence. Sarah touched my arm once, her voice quiet, "You need to prepare yourself," and I felt the ground crumble. Every memory I carried, childhood laughter, whispered promises, late-night stars, began to bleed into a painful blur. I stood torn between denial and rage, knowing the truth was circling me like a predator. The cracks had become canyons, the bond too fractured to hold. My heart screamed for answers, but my lips stayed sealed. The betrayal had not yet spoken aloud, but it lived in every shadow, and I was drowning in it. The truth struck not like a whisper, but like a knife dragged across my soul. I stepped into the room, my presence no longer hidden. Emily's laughter stopped, her face draining of color. Daniel leaned back casually, his smirk widening as though he had won a game I never knew we were playing. Sarah's eyes flicked from me to Emily, terror shining in her silence. My voice cracked as I said, "Tell me it's not true." Emily tried to speak, but her lips trembled, no words forming. Daniel said smoothly, "Why deny it now? He deserves to know." His words sank like stones into my chest, heavy, final, unforgiving. I remembered every promise Emily made, every night she said she'd never betray me, all unraveling in a single glance she couldn't meet. Sarah whispered, "Michael, please," but the plea only deepened the wound. In that moment, I saw clearly, it was not suspicion, not doubt. It was betrayal made flesh, undeniable, and cruel. Emily's voice finally broke the silence, shaking yet sharp. She said, "Michael, you don't understand, it's not what it looks like." But her words fell flat against the truth I already knew. Daniel laughed quietly, his voice thick with mockery. "Stop pretending, Emily, he deserves honesty." Sarah's hand rose slightly, as if to stop him, but she couldn't speak. My chest burned as I shouted, "After everything, after all the years I trusted you?" The weight of my words echoed in the stillness, suffocating the air. Emily's eyes shimmered with tears, but no apology left her lips. Instead, silence stretched, louder than screams. I remembered her saying once, "You're the only one who truly knows me." Now I wondered if I had ever known her at all. The betrayal unfolded like poison spilling across the floor, impossible to contain. Daniel leaned forward, his voice dripping with triumph. "She was never yours, Michael. You just didn't see it." Emily flinched, her shoulders curling inward, her silence confirming more than words ever could. Sarah's gasp broke the air, sharp and painful, but she still held back from speaking. My knees weakened, the world tilting as I whispered, "You were laughing at my tears." Emily's face twisted in agony, yet she said nothing to deny it. Every memory I carried now cracked into fragments, tainted beyond repair. The truth was not a knife but a storm, tearing through everything I thought I knew. My heart screamed, but my voice came out as a whisper, raw and broken. "You chose him over me." Emily finally spoke, her voice trembling like glass ready to break. She said, "I never wanted to hurt you, but I can't keep pretending." Her eyes finally met mine, and the truth in them shattered the last of my defenses. Daniel's arm brushed against hers casually, a gesture that screamed intimacy. Sarah turned away, her face buried in her hands as if unable to watch. My heart thundered, rage and sorrow colliding violently within me. I wanted to scream at her, to demand why, but the answer was written in every stolen glance, every silence, every lie. I whispered, "You were my best friend," and the words felt like ashes in my mouth. Emily's tears finally fell, but they came too late to heal what was already destroyed. The room grew heavy with silence, broken only by the storm of my breathing. Daniel leaned back, his grin poisonous, while Emily sobbed quietly beside him. Sarah finally found her voice, whispering, "Michael, you can't carry this pain alone." But her words felt distant, drowned by the weight crushing me. I remembered Emily once saying, "We'll face everything together," and the cruelty of those words cut deeper now. The betrayal was not just love stolen, but trust murdered. My voice cracked as I said, "You weren't just my friend, you were my everything." Emily covered her face, shame consuming her, but no apology could resurrect what was gone. The bond was broken, the truth exposed, and there was no way back. The storm inside me finally erupted, years of loyalty collapsing into rage. My voice thundered, "You laughed at my pain, Emily. You destroyed everything we built." She sobbed, shaking, whispering, "Michael, I didn't mean to." Daniel stepped forward, smug, his tone sharp as he said, "She chose me because you were never enough." His words pierced me, and fury surged. Sarah's trembling voice broke through, "Stop this before it breaks you completely." But it was already broken, shattered beyond repair. My fists clenched, my heart racing, each breath searing my lungs. I shouted, "You were my best friend, my family, my everything." Emily's face crumpled with guilt, but her silence screamed louder than any apology. Daniel smirked, enjoying the chaos, his presence like gasoline on fire. Sarah's tears streamed as she whispered, "Michael, don't lose yourself to this." But I was already consumed, flames of betrayal burning through me. The confrontation grew violent, not in fists but in words sharper than blades. Emily cried, "I never stopped caring for you, Michael," but her voice cracked with dishonesty. Daniel sneered, "She belongs with me now, face it." The sound of his voice lit the fire of fury inside me. I shouted, "You both betrayed me, and you think I'll just accept this?" Emily's tears streamed, her body collapsing inward, her hands shaking. Sarah cried out, "Stop, this isn't who you are." But her words barely reached me through the chaos. My heart broke and bled, each beat pounding like war drums. The room swayed with grief and rage, every shadow amplifying the weight of betrayal. The air was thick, suffocating, heavy with screams and sobs. It was not a conversation, it was war. Emily fell to her knees, her sobs tearing through the silence like thunder. She said, "Michael, I never meant for it to end this way, but the lie was too brittle to heal me." Daniel laughed, cruel and hollow. You were always blind to the truth. My chest ached as I shouted, I gave you everything, Emily, and you spit on it. Sarah grabbed my arm, her voice trembling. Please, don't let anger destroy you too. But the dam had broken, emotions spilling into every corner of the room. I remembered every night. Emily said she'd protect my heart, and now those promises twisted into venom. Tears burned my eyes, rage and sorrow colliding, each word a blade tearing at me. The friendship I had built my life upon had collapsed into ashes. The room shook with cries, silence and betrayal too heavy to breathe through. The climax of pain tore the night apart. My voice cracked. You weren't just my friend, Emily. You were my hope. She screamed back. I'm sorry. But the words shattered into pieces, too late, too hollow. Daniel's mocking tone sliced deeper. Your hope was always a lie. Rage surged, but grief choked me, leaving me trembling. Sarah cried, Please, Michael, don't let this ruin you. Her voice trembled with desperation, tears spilling freely. Emily's face twisted with regret, her sobs breaking into the silence after every word. Daniel stood with cruel pride, feeding on my suffering. My heart felt torn between forgiveness and destruction, but all I could taste was ash. Betrayal had swallowed every trace of light, and only shadows remained. The storm outside mirrored the storm within, unstoppable and merciless. The confrontation ended not with peace, but with silence that cut sharper than screams. I whispered, broken, you killed us, Emily. You killed everything we were. She collapsed into her hands, her body shaking, words failing. Daniel smirked, standing unbothered, as if my pain was victory. Sarah whispered, Michael, you have to walk away, her voice heavy with sorrow. My chest heaved, breath shallow, eyes burning with tears I could no longer hold back. I realized the friendship, the love, the trust had all died here tonight. Nothing remained but ruins and memories twisted into blades. The storm outside quieted, but the storm within me would never end. Betrayal had broken me in ways I never thought possible, and no one in that room could fix what they had destroyed. The storm faded, but its silence was heavier than thunder. I stood broken, the walls of that room suffocating me. Emily sat in tears, unable to lift her head. Daniel's grin lingered, cruel in its victory. Sarah whispered, Michael, you need to leave. My body moved, but my heart refused, chained by years of loyalty now reduced to dust. Every memory replayed, each laugh and promise stabbed deeper than the last. I whispered, we were supposed to be forever, my words falling into nothingness. Emily sobbed harder, her voice muffled. I never wanted this. Daniel scoffed, his tone dripping with contempt. You were blind to the truth. Sarah pulled at my sleeve gently, her eyes pleading. My chest ached, but my legs finally carried me toward the door. I turned once, seeing the ruins of everything I loved in their faces. The friendship was dead, its ashes scattered in silence. The cold night air hit me like a blade as I stepped outside. Rain soaked the streets, the silence broken only by dripping water. Sarah followed, her hand hovering near me, as if afraid to touch. She whispered, Michael, please breathe. My chest heaved, breath sharp, my mind drowning in betrayal. The street light above flickered, its glow casting fractured shadows. I remembered Emily laughing beneath such lights, and the memory now poisoned me. My fists clenched, knuckles white, as I whispered, she was everything. Sarah's voice cracked, you still are something without her. Her words tried to anchor me, but I felt lost in a storm with no end. The betrayal had carved a hollow inside me, one no comfort could fill. Yet I stood, alive, broken but standing. We walked in silence, each step heavy with unsaid words. Sarah finally spoke, her voice trembling. Michael, you can't let them take everything from you. I stared at the ground, rainwater rippling under my feet. My voice cracked as I said, she was my whole life. Sarah's eyes glistened as she whispered, she was part of your life, not all of it. Her words were kind, but the wound refused healing. I remembered every promise Emily had made, each one now a dagger. Daniel's smirk haunted me, a shadow I could not erase. My chest ached as I whispered, I don't know who I am without her. Sarah's voice firmed, you are still Michael, and you are still here. Her words struck like a fragile light through the storm, faint but real. My pain remained, but her presence kept me standing. We reached the small bridge at the edge of town, rain dripping off the railing. I leaned heavily, staring into the dark water below. Sarah stood close, her silence a comfort. My voice broke. I gave her everything, and she laughed at me. The words echoed, too raw to contain. Sarah whispered, she lost more than you realize. She lost you. Her words struck deep, but I could not accept them. My heart replayed Emily's voice. Her laughter turned cruel in memory. I whispered, I don't know if I'll ever heal. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, but her tone remained steady. You will, because pain can't erase who you are. The storm above finally eased, but inside me the storm still raged. My reflection in the water looked like a stranger, broken and hollow. Yet beside me stood someone who still believed I could stand again. The night ended with silence between us, but it was not empty silence. It was the silence of survival. I whispered, she was my best friend, and now she is my ghost. Sarah placed her hand on my shoulder, steady and warm. She said softly, ghosts don't define the living. My heart cracked, but her words planted something faint, not hope but endurance. The betrayal would never fade, the scar permanent, but I would walk forward with it. Emily's laughter would haunt me. Daniel's smirk would burn in my mind, but neither would break me entirely. The ashes of what was lost would remain, but so too would the strength to keep breathing. Sarah's presence reminded me that even in ruin, some bonds could hold. The night closed not with healing, but with survival, and survival was enough. The rain slowed as dawn threatened the horizon, but inside me the night never ended. I walked alone, each step echoing with memories of Emily's laughter turned cruel. Her voice replayed endlessly, haunting me with the words, he cried like a child. My chest hollowed as I whispered, I wasn't a child, I was a friend. Sarah followed a few steps behind, her silence heavy, her presence the only proof I wasn't entirely lost. Daniel's smirk burned in my memory, mocking me even when he wasn't there. Emily's face, twisted by tears and regret, blurred between who she was and who she had become. I wanted to scream her name to demand why, but I knew no answer would heal me. I whispered, you betrayed every version of us. My breath trembled in the cold morning air, and I felt the scar etching itself deep into my soul. The quiet stretched like a wound that refused to close. Sarah finally stepped beside me, her voice low, Michael, some endings make room for beginnings. I shook my head, whispering, this isn't an ending, it's a grave. Her eyes shimmered, but she didn't argue. Emily's image clawed through my mind, her promises twisted, her laughter like knives. Daniel's words, cruel, triumphant, echoed as though carved into stone. My breath hitched, the weight of everything pressing down, crushing me. I said, they didn't just betray me. They betrayed every memory we shared. Sarah's hand brushed mine briefly, a fragile reminder I was not alone, though I felt abandoned by the world. The street around us remained still, holding its breath as I carried my broken truth forward. I reached the empty park where we once spent summer nights, the ghost of laughter clinging to the air. I stood at the swings, my voice breaking. This was where we promised forever. Emily's smile from those nights haunted me, now poisoned by her betrayal. Daniel's shadow lingered even here, his smirk invading every memory. Sarah whispered, Michael, those promises were real once, even if they died. My chest ached as I gripped the cold chain of the swing, whispering, then why do they feel like lies now? The silence answered, heavy and cruel. Every star we once named together now burned out in my mind. The park was no longer sanctuary but tomb, a graveyard of friendship. My tears fell, disappearing into the earth as if they never mattered. The air grew colder as realization settled in. The friendship was not wounded, it was buried. I whispered, "There's no going back." Sarah nodded slowly, her voice gentle. "No, but you can still move forward." Ah! My heart resisted, clinging to the ashes of what was lost. Emily's face replayed in fragments, her voice saying, "We're unbreakable," now twisted into a cruel irony. Daniel's mocking tone returned, venomous in memory. "She chose me." My jaw tightened, tears falling freely as I said, "They took everything from me." Sarah placed her hand firmly on my arm, whispering, "Not everything." Her words flickered like a fragile flame, too small to warn me, but enough to keep me standing. The silence between us carried the weight of all that was lost, and the faintest thread of what remained. The final truth settled like a scar carved into my chest. I whispered, "I lost my best friend the day I found out who she really was." Sarah closed her eyes, her tears silent but endless. The dawn rose higher, painting the world in pale gold, but it could not touch the shadows in my heart. Emily's laughter would haunt me forever, Daniel's smirk etched like poison in memory. But I knew this was the last night. I would let their betrayal define me. My voice cracked, barely audible. They didn't just betray me. They betrayed every version of us we could have been. The words cut deep, yet they also freed me. Sarah whispered, "Then let that truth carry you, not chain you." The sun rose fully, and though my heart still bled, I walked forward, scarred but unbroken.